Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1976's The Love Slaves. This is directed by Bob Chin, a director of many other adult films that Vinegar Syndrome has already showcased on their distribution line. And this is a DVD that they released. Reality becomes fantasy, fantasy becomes reality, as the tagline on the front says. Beautiful cover artwork here. This is 1976's The Love Slaves. Let's look at this film here, folks, because this is quite a movie. There's some screenshots right there. It actually says it's uncut and in its original aspect ratio for the first time on home video. Thank you, Vinegar Syndrome. And scanned and restored in 2K from 35mm archival elements. These are rare films. This is a rare film. So let's get into it. Essentially, what we have here is we have a mystery happening on the streets of San Francisco as women are being kidnapped. There is a dungeon white basement filled with, there are mannequins in there, drugs, sex slaves, a white slavery vibe, a mad doctor, a boat ride on the high seas, apartments in San Francisco, a police officer on the case for this mysterious threat towards women in the San Francisco area. This is a film that combines a lot of different styles, a lot of different moods, and all in one film to make it an extremely unique, hardcore beast. Let's get into 1976's The Love Slaves, rated X. Here we go, folks. First and foremost, we're going to look at the music for this film. This film has just about wall-to-wall music in it, and the music really brings and helps to bring the chaotic, bizarre, interesting, unique vibe to this film, even a cacophony vibe to this film. Well, the music is so many different ranges, so many different styles. We have orchestrated music, we have acoustic guitar, we have organ, and then we have this kind of dark, hellish, oppressive, noisy Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of score as well that you will hear initially on the menu screen and in the opening title credits. There's tons of music in this film, and what makes the music so interesting is that it's so contradictory sometimes to some of the scenes that are playing out with the music. Now, the orchestrated music in this film is very interesting because it's like classical pieces that almost sound like they could be in It's a Wonderful Life or some old-time dramas or old-time thrillers or mystery films, from almost like the 30s, even a silent film era, or even a romance film from maybe the 50s or 60s. And so it has so many different ranges, and it holds so many different contradictions to what is going on in the screen, because there's a lot of dark stuff happening in this film. Thematically, there's a lot of disturbing, shocking stuff, and of course there's also a ton of erotic, sexy stuff. But defining the two of those things can be rather chaotic and unique when it comes to The Love Slaves, because there's a lot of different feels and vibes going on in this film. Wall-to-wall music, very bizarre. Almost sometimes it sounds orchestrated, happy, like it could be in a Disney film or a 70s sitcom, but there's something disturbing happening on the screen. Now, with that, stylistically, we also have very jarring, off-putting editing in this film. Sometimes the edits, the cuts are very jarring and very drastic and bring kind of a chaotic vibe to the film, a disturbing nature to the film. Now, stylistically, we also have some very interesting, I've never seen so much being done in a white dungeon before. You see maybe some low budget indie films nowadays or things like that where they don't have they don't have a lot of locations, so they got to do it in one room, and it's okay, but it's very obvious and it's tedious that it's in one room. room, not in the Love Slaves. This white, dirty dungeon is magic. What they have going on in here, what Bob Chin has going on in here. Essentially, we have two mannequins in the room, and the way there's a surrealness to the mannequins at times. Did that mannequin's head just move? What? I had to rewind it once just to check that out. We have he's doing a lot of interesting framing and angles involving one of the mannequins in that dungeon, but also involving the sex scenes as well. He also does some interesting things with lighting in one of the scenes. It almost looks like this very minimal spotlight in a darkened apartment, done so well. A shot between somebody's legs, these wonderful San Francisco driving shots, and these gliding boat shots over the waters. Now, when we look at the sex scenes, the way they do it stylistically in here as well, the way Bob Chin does it is there's such an emphasis on facial emotions. Well, facial, well, no, you know what I mean, on the emotions of the face, and that can take the form of just erotic sexual passion, but it can also take the form of terror, disturbing, violent terror as well. We also have some very interesting reflections going on in this character, this doctor's glasses, sunglasses. The way that Bob Chin is it's kind of filming these reflections through his glasses so well in that pair of glasses. There's some very interesting, even this one girl who plays the sister of the cop, John Leslie, great acting. His sister's so weird and interesting, and like there's something very bizarre about her, about all of the scenes that she is in. There's this masturbation scene that she does to a Playgirl magazine earlier in the film that is so weird. It's so fast-paced and so almost violent in its sexual intensity, but at the same time, her face, her hair, so weird, such a weird vibe. This is a film that has a late night detective film noir vibe. It has like a grindhouse horror vibe. It has kind of like a 70s torture vibe, and then of course, it also has a mystery. And I know there's nothing sci-fi in the film, but it almost the doctor felt like sci-fi or something. I can't explain it. And then we also have like kind of the vibe of like, the theme of drugs and using drugs and mind control and hypnotism. And there is, oh my gosh, there's something that happens at the end of the movie on a boat that I gotta tell you, could only be done in an X-rated hardcore film, number one. Number two, I've never conceived or seen, I've never seen anything like it before, and the way that it's set up involving something X-rated in nature, that's all I'm gonna say, but I've never seen anything like it before, and it's freaking crazy. There's even a little bit of slow-mo in the film as well. This is a film that has everything from masturbation to lesbian situations, obviously heterosexual, 2 guys, 1 girl, 2 girls, 1 guy, and even a mannequin. Yes, correct. Also some variety of dildos, and there's even a very disturbing, violent rape scene in the film done in X-rated fashion, which could, if you had a hard time with Last House on the Left, when you're watching an adult film and there's a rape scene, you will not be able to watch it at all if you had a hard time with Last House on the Left, when there, that wasn't even that explicit, if you understand what I'm saying. So the things are not implied in rape scenes in the Love Slaves and in these types of films. Now, the interesting thing is that we have eroticism in this film, and we also have disturbing eroticism in the film. There's a lot of different aspects going on here, and there's so many different vibes. We even have first-person narration in the film, as well as John Leslie is playing the police officer. there's a normal doctor, an Asian normal doctor in this apartment complex, and he only has a very small scene, but I just loved his character, loved his acting. John Leslie is just amazing. If you've seen him in other adult films, X-rated films, he's just a great, great actor. Now, in terms of the sex scenes in the film, I got to tell you that the large number of the women in the film I've never seen before. Like the girl on the cover right here. I've seen. I believe her name is Desiree West. I could be wrong on that, but a large number of the women in the film I've never seen before yet. And everybody was just. I thought the women were very sexually attractive. I recognized the guys before, definitely from other adult films, and the sex scenes were hot and wild, and they really tie into the storyline. Now, this is a case too where an X-rated movie is, where a story could only be made in an X-rated movie, okay, involving drugs, sex, mind control, hypnotism, kidnapping, and a mad doctor. But this mad doctor is not in the universal horror sense, okay? It is in a very, very gritty, grindhousey sense. And the funny thing is, you get beautiful shots of San Francisco in here, in the San Francisco red light district and such. But the interesting thing is, it almost gave me a New York City vibe, especially because of how vicious, or not how vicious, how dirty, grindhousey 70s it felt at times as well. But also with the sophisticated vibe of kind of a detective slash police late at night noir. Almost reminded me a bit of the cop in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, but played more seriously. Now, the opening title sequence to this film, involving kind of still frames of things that you could see in the movie later on. I got to tell you, with the dark, cacophony, hellish, oppressive soundscape during the opening title sequence, right off the bat, we're getting into something here. And it's so well done, that opening title sequence, and done, in an X-rated fashion, right in your face, but interesting, mysterious, dark. And that's exactly what the Love Slaves is. It's very unique, very creative. It's a tonally dark film. It's a surprising film. It's erotic, it's disturbing, it's weird, and it's surreal also. As I said before, if you're looking for, I've said in other reviews for X-rated films, if you want to see what X-rated films can be, if you want to see how creative they can be, how interesting they can be, and how truly a storyline could only be made, within the confines of an X-rated film, and you want to see something that you haven't quite seen before, a film like The Love Slaves, here we go. That's what I'm talking about. The Love Slaves, directed by Bob Chin, from 1976. This is, it says in the back here, a hybrid of hardcore drive-in madness and neo-noir sleaze. It is a wild film with a shocking kind of twist of an ending, and it's a pretty wild film. There's some blood in here as well, and it's a very sexy film too, and it's you're going to see some X-rated tropes in here, done in environments that you might not have seen before. 1976 is The Love Slaves. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films like this that I believe need to be talked about more. Thank you, Vinegar Syndrome. And please feel free to check out my own personal films at Apartment 1014 Films. Just Google it. Good night.